SAWLZ-bree is a cathedral city in Wiltshire, England, and the only city within the county. It is the second largest settlement in the county by population, between Chippenham at 35,800 and Swindon at 209,156. It has also been called ʻnjuː /ʻnjuː and registered trademark ʻrê unregistered trademark m/ to distinguish it from the original site of settlement at the north of the city at Old Sarum, but this alternative name is not in common use. The city is located in the southeast of Wiltshire, near the edge of Salisbury Plain. It sits at the confluence of 5 rivers, the Nadder, Ebble, Wyle and Bourne, a tributary to the Avon, which flows to the south coast and into the sea at Christchurch, Dorset. Salisbury railway station serves the city, and is the crossing point between the West of England Main Line and the Wessex Main Line, making it a regional interchange. History: although the actual city was not established until 1220, there has been a settlement in the area since prehistory. There is evidence of Neolithic settlement on the hilltop of Old Sarum, which became a hill fort in the Iron Age. The Romans called this fort Sorviodunum, and may also have occupied the fort. The Saxons established themselves there, called it ʻsɛərəm, and the Normans built a castle or ʻsɛərzbri. By 1086, in the Domesday Book, it was called SAWLZ-bree. The first Salisbury Cathedral was built on the hill by Saint Bishop Osmond between 1075 and 1092. A larger building was built on the same site circa 1120. However, deteriorating relations between the clergy and the military at Old Sarum led to the decision to re-site the cathedral elsewhere. Even in the 12th century, Peter of Blois had described the old church as a captive within the walls of the citadel, like the Ark of God in the profane house of Baal. He made the appeal Let us descend into the plain. There are rich fields and fertile valleys abounding in the fruits of the earth and watered by the living stream. There is a seat for the Virgin Patroness of our church to which the world cannot produce a parallel. The logic of this was inescapable, and in 1219 Richard Poor, the then Bishop of ʻsɛərəm, decided to establish a new town and cathedral on an estate in his possession in the valley, on the banks of the River Avon. In 1220 the city of ʻnjuː ʻsɛərəm, now known as SOLZ-bree, was founded on a great meadow called Mirrorfield. The town was laid out in a grid pattern, and work started in 1220, with the cathedral commencing the following year. The town developed rapidly, and by the 14th century was the foremost town in Wiltshire. The city wall surrounds the close and was built in the 14th century. There are 5 gates in the wall. 4 are original, known as the High Street Gate, St. Anne's Gate, the Queen's Gate, and St. Nicholas's Gate. A 5th was created in the 19th century to allow access to Bishop Wordsworth's school located inside the cathedral close. A room located above St. Anne's Gate is where the composer Handel stayed, writing several works while there. The building of the new cathedral was begun by Bishop Richard Poor in 1221. The main body was completed in only 38 years and is a masterpiece of early English architecture. Some stones which make up the cathedral came from Old Sarum, others from the Chilmark quarries, from where they were most likely moved to the cathedral building site by ox cart. The existence of many watermills and weirs probably prevented transport via boats on the River Nadder. The 123 am tall spire was built later and is the tallest spire in the UK. The cathedral is built on a gravel bed with unusually shallow foundations of 18 inches upon wooden faggots. The site is supposed to have been selected by shooting an arrow from Old Sarum, although this can only be legend as the distance is over 3 kilometres. It is sometimes claimed the arrow hit a white deer, which continued to run and died on the spot where the cathedral now exists. The cathedral contains the best preserved of the 4 surviving copies of the Magna Carta and a large mechanical clock installed in the cathedral in 1386, the oldest surviving mechanical clock in Britain. The original site of the city at Old Sarum fell into disuse. Old Sarum was a rotten borough that was abolished in 1832 as at the time, 1 MP represented 3 households. The Berry element is a form of borough, which has cognates in words and place names throughout the Germanic languages. For a fuller explanation, see borough. The origins of the name Sarum are obscure. It most likely derives from the fact that ʻsɛərəm came into use when documents were written in contracted Latin. It was easier to write ʻsā with a stroke over the r, than write the complete word ʻsɔːlzbri. That mark was also the common symbol for the Latin termination . Hence r with a stroke over the r was copied as SARM. One of the first known uses of ʻsɛərəm is on the seal of St. Nicholas Hospital, Salisbury, which was in use in 1239. Bishop Wyville was the first bishop to describe himself Episcopus ʻsɛərəm. In May 1289, there was uncertainty about the future of Margaret, Maid of Norway, and her father sent ambassadors to Edward I of England. Edward met Robert the Bruce and others at Salisbury in October 1289, which resulted in the Treaty of SOLZ-bree, under which Margaret would be sent to Scotland before November 1, 1290, and any agreement on her future marriage would be delayed until she was in Scotland. In 1450, a number of riots broke out at roughly the same time Jack Cade led a famous rebellion through London. The riots were for related reasons to those of Jack Cade and his followers, however the decline of the cloth trade may have also been influential. The violence peaked with the murder of William Aysgarth, Bishop of Salisbury. The bishop was branded a traitor for his involvement in a governing clique perceived responsible for misgovernment of the realm by both the rebels in London and Salisbury. In 1483, a large-scale rebellion against Richard III of England broke out, led by his own kingmaker, Henry Stafford, 2nd Duke of Buckingham. After the revolt collapsed, Buckingham was executed at Salisbury, near the Bull's Head Inn. During the Great Plague of London, Charles II held court in the Cathedral Close. At the time of the Glorious Revolution, King James II gathered his main forces, altogether about 19,000 men, at Salisbury, James himself arriving in the city on November 19, 1688. His troops were not keen to fight William and Mary, and the loyalty of many of his commanders was in doubt. The first blood was shed at Wincanton, in Somerset. In Salisbury, James heard that some of his officers had deserted, such as Edward Hyde, and he broke out in a nosebleed which he took as an omen that he should retreat. His commander-in-chief, the Earl of Feversham, advised retreat on November 23, and the next day John Churchill deserted to William. On November 26, James's own daughter, Princess Anne, did the same, and James returned to London the same day, never again to be at the head of a serious military force in England. At the time of the 1948 Summer Olympics, held in London, a relay of runners carried the Olympic flame from Wembley Stadium, where the Games were based, to the sailing centre at Torbay via Slough, Basingstoke, Salisbury, and Exeter. Governance. Salisbury now falls under two authorities created in 2009, Salisbury City Council and Wiltshire Council. It was once at the heart of the now defunct Salisbury district, which oversaw most of South Wiltshire as well as the city. When Wiltshire's local government was reorganised under a unitary authority in April 2009, Salisbury City Council was formed, although with fewer responsibilities than the former district council. The city has one Member of Parliament for the Salisbury constituency, currently John Glenn, who was elected in the 2010 election. Geography. Salisbury is located in a valley. The geology of the area, like much of South Wiltshire and Hampshire, is largely chalk. The rivers which flow through the city have been redirected, and along with landscaping, have been used to feed into public gardens. They are popular in the summer, particularly the Queen Elizabeth Gardens, as the water there is shallow and slow-flowing enough to enter safely. Close to Queen Elizabeth Gardens are water meadows, where the water is controlled by weirs. Because of the low-lying land, the rivers are prone to flooding, particularly during the winter months. The town path, a walkway that links Harnham with the rest of the city, is at times impassable. A cause of concern to the people of Salisbury is the lack of adequate roads. There is no motorway that links the ports of Southampton and Bristol, so all traffic between must pass through the city via the A36. There are civil airfields at Old Sarum and at Thruxton near Andover. Climate. Salisbury experiences an oceanic climate similar to almost all of the United Kingdom. The nearest Met Office weather station to Salisbury is Boscombe Down, about 6 miles to the north of the city centre. In terms of the local climate, Salisbury is amongst the sunniest of inland areas in the UK, averaging over 1650 hours of sunshine in a typical year. Temperature extremes since 1960 have ranged from a 12.4 degrees Celsius in January 1963 to 34.5 degrees Celsius during July 2006. The lowest temperature to be recorded in recent years was a 10.1 degrees Celsius during December 2010. Demography: the civil parish of SOLZ-bree, which excludes some of the city's suburbs such as Lowestoft, Ford, Britford, Harnham and Odstock, had a population of 40,302 at the 2011 census. The urban zone, which contains the wards immediately surrounding the city, had a population of 62,216 at the 2011 census. The wards included in this figure are Lowestoft, Wilton, Britford, Downton, Alderbury and Odstock among others, however does not include the towns of Amesbury or Romsey as these support their own local populations. At the 2011 census, the population of the civil parish was 95.73% white, 2.48% Asian, 0.45% black and 1.15% mixed race. 86.43% of the civil parish's population were born in England, 3.94% were born elsewhere in the UK and 4.94% were born elsewhere in the EU, while 4.70% of the population were born outside the EU. 62.49% of the civil parish's population declared their religion as Christianity, while 27.09% stated no religion, and 8.02% declined to state their religion. 0.79% of the population declared their religion as Islam, 0.41% as Buddhism, 0.40% as Hinduism and 0.80% as some other religion. 95.89% of the civil parish's population considered their main language to be English, while 1.12% considered it to be Polish, 0.28% considered it to be Bengali and 0.24% considered it to be Tagalog. 99.43% of the population claimed to be able to speak English well or very well. In 2001, 22.33% of Salisbury's population were aged between 30 and 44, 42.76% were over 45 and only 13.3% were between 18 and 29. Economy. Salisbury holds a market on Tuesdays and Saturdays and has held markets regularly since 1227. In the 15th century the marketplace had 3 crosses. The Poultry Cross, whose name describes its market. The Cheese and Milk Cross indicated that market, which was in the triangle between the HSBC Bank and the SAWLZ-bree Library. There was a third cross near the site of the present War Memorial, and this marked a woolen and yarn market. A fourth cross called Barnwell or Barnard's Cross was situated around the Culver Street, Barnard Street area. This marked a cattle and livestock market. Today only the Poultry Cross remains, to which flying buttresses were added in 1852. In 1226, King Henry III granted the Bishop of Salisbury a charter to hold a fair lasting 8 days from the Feast of the Assumption of Mary. Over the centuries the dates for the fair have moved around, but in its modern guise, a fun fair is now held in the marketplace for 3 days from the third Monday in October. However, there is still an ancient law stating that the fair can be held in the Cathedral Close. From 1833 to its demolition in the mid-1980s, the Salisbury Gas Light and Coke Company, who ran the city's gasworks, were one of the major employers in the area. The company was formed in 1832 with a share capital of £8,000, and its first chairman was the 3rd Earl of Radnor. The company was incorporated by a private Act of Parliament in 1864, and the Gas Orders Confirmation Act 1882 empowered the company to raise capital of up to £40,000. At its peak, the gasworks were producing not only coal gas but also coke, which was sold off as the byproduct of gas making. Ammoniacal liquor, which came out as another byproduct in the making of gas, was mixed with sulfuric acid, dried and ground to make a powder which was sold as an agricultural fertilizer. The clinker from the retort house was sold to a firm in London to be used as purifier beds in the construction of sewage works. Stonehenge, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is about 8 miles northwest of Salisbury and greatly aids the local economy. The city itself, Old Sarum, and the original cathedral also attract visitors. Shopping centres include the Old George Mall, the Maltings, Winchester Street and the Crosskeys Precinct. Major employers include Salisbury District Hospital and Friends Life. Culture. Salisbury was an important centre for music in the 18th century. The grammarian James Harris, a friend of Handel, directed concerts at the Assembly Rooms for almost 50 years up to his death in 1780, with many of the most famous musicians and singers of the day performing there. Salisbury holds an annual St. George's Day pageant, the origins of which are claimed to go back to the 13th century. Salisbury has a strong artistic community, with galleries situated in the city centre, including one in the public library. In the 18th century, John Constable made a number of celebrated landscape paintings featuring the cathedral's spire and the surrounding countryside. Salisbury's annual International Arts Festival, started in 1973, and held in late May to early June, provides a program of theatre, live music, dance, public sculpture, street performance and art exhibitions. Salisbury also houses a producing theatre, SOLZ-bree Playhouse, which produces between 8 and 10 plays a year, as well as welcoming touring productions. Salisbury and South Wiltshire Museum. The Salisbury and South Wiltshire Museum is housed in the King's House, a Grade I listed building whose history dates back to the 13th century, just opposite the west front of the cathedral. The permanent Stonehenge exhibition gallery has interactive displays about Stonehenge and the archaeology of South Wiltshire, and its collections include the skeleton of the Amesbury archer, which is on display. The Pitt Rivers Gallery holds a collection from General Augustus Pitt Rivers, often called the father of modern archaeology. The Costume Gallery showcases costume and textiles from the area, with costumes for children to try on and imagine themselves as characters from Salisbury's past. Twinning. Salisbury is twinned with Saints, France, since 1990. Xanten, Germany, since 2006. Salisbury is also a sister city of Salisbury, North Carolina, and Salisbury, Maryland, both of which are in the United States. Schools. There are numerous schools around the area of Salisbury, including located in Salisbury Cathedral Close, Leadenhall School for Girls, Leadenhall School and Salisbury Cathedral School. Other schools in the city include the Chaffin Grove School, Leahurst Swan School, the Godolphin Senior and Prep School, St Edmund's Girls' School, ʻsɛərəm Academy and Stonehenge Comprehensive School. Salisbury also includes the only 2 grammar schools in Wiltshire, South Wilts Grammar School for Girls and Bishop Wordsworth School, which is for boys. Transport. Road. The main transport links for the city are the roads. Salisbury lies on the intersection of the A30, the A36 and the A338 and is at the end of the A343, A345, A354 and A360. Car parks around the periphery of the city are linked to the city centre by a park and ride scheme. Bus. There are bus links to Southampton, Bournemouth and Andover, working 7 days a week with limited services on Sundays. Wilts and Dorset are the main local bus company, part of the Go Ahead Group, with a bus station at 8 Endless Street and a bus yard in Castle Street. Stagecoach in Hampshire runs the number 87 to Andover every 2 hours from Salisbury, and also every other journey on Route 8 to Andover via Amesbury and Tidworth along with Wilts and Dorset. Bodmans also runs the number 24 bus between Salisbury and Warminster, which replaced the X4/X5 service which used to run between Salisbury and Bath. Salisbury also has a park and ride bus scheme with 5 sites around the city. These park and ride sites relieve pressure on the city centre but run at an annual loss of £1 million. The park and ride sites, which are funded by Wiltshire Council and cost £2.50 for parking and bus transport for an individual or £3.50 for up to 6 passengers, are 501 Beehive €A345 Castle Road to the north, 502 Wilton €A36 Wilton Road to the west, 503 Britford €A338 Downton Road to the south, 504 London Road €A30 London Road to the northeast. 505 Petersfinger A36 Southampton Road, to the southeast. Railways. Salisbury railway station is the crossing point of the West of England Main Line, from London Waterloo to Exeter Central and Exeter St David's, and the Wessex Main Line from Bristol to Southampton. The station is operated by South West Trains. First Great Western hourly trains call from Cardiff Central, Bristol Temple Meads, Bath Spa to Southampton Central and Portsmouth Harbour. Sport and leisure. The city has a football team, Salisbury City FC, who play in the Conference Premier Division. Their games are at the Raymond Mayen Hill Stadium on the northern edge of the city. Also in the city are fellow non-league football clubs Bemerton Heath Harlequins FC and Laverstock and Ford FC, the latter playing at the Dell. Salisbury Rugby Club, which is based at Castle Road, has produced several England internationals in recent years and continues to nurture future talent through a buoyant mini and youth section. It is seen as one of the prime rugby nurturing centres nationwide, regularly providing county championship winning sides, county players at all ages, and academy players for the professional game. Their junior section has also won national tournaments on a regular basis, playing finals at Twickenham. There are 3 cricket clubs in the area. South Wilts Cricket Club is based at the SOLZ-bree and South Wilts Sports Club. Winterburn Cricket Club is based in Winterburn, Gunner. And Farley Cricket Club is based at Coronation Field, Farley. Salisbury Hockey Club is also based at the SOLZ-bree and South Wilts Sports Club. The Five Rivers Leisure Centre and Swimming Pool is located just outside the Ring Road and was opened in 2002. Salisbury Racecourse is a flat racing course to the southwest of the city. Five Rivers Indoor Bowls Club and Salisbury Snooker Club share a building on Tollgate Road. The Snooker Club also has sections for pool and darts. The Bishop's Walk on the edge of the city provides a popular viewing point. The Old Sarum Airfield, north of Salisbury City Centre, is home to a variety of aviation-based businesses including traditional flying schools and the APT Charitable Trust. The local theatre is the SOLZ-bree Playhouse. The City Hall is an entertainment venue and hosts comedy, musical performances as well as seminars and conventions. Salisbury Arts Centre has exhibitions and workshops. Salisbury is well supplied with pubs. The Haunch of Venison, overlooking the Poultry Cross, still operates from a 14th-century building. One of its attractions is a cast of a mummified hand, supposedly severed during a game of cards. The hand vanished in 2004 as a publicity stunt for the pub but later reappeared and can still be seen there. The Redar unregistered trademark or has original deeds dating from 1292. It was the home of Agnes Botnam, who used the profits of the tavern to found Trinity Hospital next door around 1380. Some buildings in Salisbury are reputed to be haunted. Ghost tours are popular with locals and visitors. One such building is the local Odeon Cinema located in the Hall of John Halley, the oldest building in the UK to contain a cinema. The Debenhams department store is said to be haunted by Henry Stafford, 2nd Duke of Buckingham. The store is on the site where he was beheaded in 1483. Media, Salisbury is served by 2 local radio stations. Spire FM is the independent local radio station, and BBC Wiltshire is the BBC local radio public service station for the whole county. Regional television services are provided by BBC South and ITV Meridian. The Salisbury Journal is the local paid-for weekly newspaper which is available in shops every Thursday, with some home deliveries coming on Wednesday night. The local free weekly newspaper is the Avon Advertiser, which is delivered to houses in Salisbury and the surrounding area and made by the same company as the Journal. In fiction, Salisbury is the original of Melchester in Thomas Hardy's novels, such as Jude the Obscure. A lively account of the Salisbury markets, as they were in 1842, is contained in Chapter 5 of Martin Chuzzlewit by Charles Dickens. The fictitious Kingsbridge Cathedral and TV miniseries, The Pillars of the Earth, based on a historical novel by the same name by Ken Follett, is modelled on the cathedrals of Wells and Salisbury. The final aerial shot of the series is of Salisbury Cathedral. The novel ʻsɛərəm by Edward Rutherford describes the history of Salisbury. The novel The Spire by William Golding tells the story of the building of the spire of an unnamed cathedral similar to SOLZ-bree Cathedral. The Starbridge series of Susanna watches laid in a cathedral city similar to Salisbury during the 1930s and 1960s. It tracks various strands of religious thought and action in the Church of England. References. External links: SOLZ-bree Travel Guide from Wiki Voyage, SOLZ-bree at DMOZ, Official Tourism Website, Let Me Tell You, SOLZ-bree, a BBC film about life in the city in 1967 at BBC Wiltshire, Historic SOLZ-bree photos at BBC Wiltshire.